Aloha, everyone. It's just about 6 o'clock. We'll give it a minute or so, and then we'll go ahead and pull up the presentation. Then we'll get started.
Hello, Gigi.
Aloha, Randy. All right.
In fact,
Michael,
I'm sorry. Yeah, before you start, Gigi,
yeah.
folks, if you'd like to, you're welcome to turn on your cameras. During the presentation, we do ask that you please mute while Gigi does go through the presentation part, but you're more than welcome to please open up your cameras so that we can see you.
Great. Do we have anyone in the waiting room?
No, we are ready to go.
Okay, great. Okay, so aloha, everyone, and welcome. If I haven't met you yet, I am Gigi Kyrell with the department's planning office, and I manage the department's community grants program. So this evening, this is the pre-proposal orientation session. We are offering these sessions all this week, and the same presentation is being done at each session. So with that, Michael Lowe from our Information Community Relations Office is joining us, assisting with the technology. So if I can ask Michael, can you go ahead and put up the presentation? All right. So again, everyone, good evening. Mahalo for attending this evening session and for your time away from your family. And we hope everyone is healthy and in a safe place this evening. Again, my name is Gigi. I'm the grant specialist here at the department, and I will be conducting the presentation this evening. And good to see so many of you and familiar faces joining us for this session. First of all, I do want to thank you, our beneficiaries and other partners, for helping us at the state legislature and to voice your support for the department's budget. Many of you are organized as all volunteer associations, so even more so, mahalo for your time and efforts to support the trust. This was an historic moment for the department at the Ledge. The state Ledge gave us an infusion of $10 million for existing homestead services. This is separate and apart from the $600 million that many of you have heard about. The Hawaiian Homes Commission approved a portion from that $10 million to be administered through the department's community grants program. They gave us $7.5 million for the grants program. The commission also approved $1 million from the Native Hawaiian Rehabilitation Fund. It's a trust fund, so we have a total of $8.5 million in available grants statewide. And this is 8 times more than our normal allocation. I want to thank our chairman, William Aila, and the Hawaiian Homes Commission for allocating these new funds to the department's grants program. This is one-time only funding for the current fiscal year. The fiscal year started July 1, 2022, and ends June 30, 2023. So we are under a timeline to expedite these funds out the door and into our homestead communities. We often talk about needing funds for community projects. Well, now we've been blessed. Now it is up to all of us, you, the community, and your partners, and the department, to show the state ledge and the general public that we can pull down these funds and use them quickly and responsibly to assist and support our homestead communities and beneficiaries. Please note, oh, sorry, let me back up. So there's a lot of eyes on these funds, as you can imagine, and a time pressure to show progress. We are hitting the ground running to get these funds out in the community as quickly as possible. Let's all do our part and show that we can do this together. Okay, let's get started. Here's the agenda. We'll go over the purpose for tonight's meeting, then do a summary of the 4 grant opportunities. Then we'll go over the highlights of the request for proposal. And again, these will be highlights only. It is not intended to be a line-by-line, page-by-page review. We will take questions at the end. Chat box first, raise hand, then we'll call people who are on the phone. Please note that general responses may be provided to clarify RFP requirements only. We prefer that you send questions to the dhhl.grants@hawaii.gov email address. Due date to submit questions is August 12. Next slide. So tonight's purpose is simply to provide an orientation to the department's grant opportunities so you become familiar with them. There are 4 requests for proposals, or what we call RFPs. We will briefly cover each one tonight. Secondly, tonight's session is to clarify RFP requirements. Lastly, this orientation is only intended to highlight and clarify the information in the RFPs. Everyone is advised to read the RFPs very carefully. They have the information that's needed to prepare and submit a proposal. Next slide. Many of you who have attended department meetings, this is our standard meeting kuleana, and we all have kuleana to make this a productive meeting. We ask everyone to be respectful, give chance to others before you speak again, and again, we ask that you hold questions until after the presentation is POW. You may use the chat box at any time throughout the presentation, and then we will take up the chat box first. If we do not get to your question or we run out of time, sorry, something popped up here on my screen. If we do not get to your question, you may also email to dhhl.grants@hawaii.gov. I think, Michael, there's a chat about, is the screen oversized? I'm not sure what that means.
Hi, Gigi. Not that I can see.
Okay.
It seems to be presenting correctly on my screen. Nani, you may want to check the screen size on your side. It might be oversized on yours. So, okay.
Alrighty. Okay, so this is the State Procurement Office HANS website, and I do advise that you always check that particular website. It is the legal posting where the department has to post all of our procurements. It will have the most complete information, and any addendum will be first posted on the HANS website. I know the HANS website is a bit cumbersome and clunky, but again, it is the legal required location where Hawaiian Homes must publicly post our procurements. And the department's website is a courtesy posting. We'll try to keep them up to date at the same time. But like I said, the HANS website will always have the most complete information. Because this is a formal procurement process we're going through, Questions at this orientation may be responded to in a general way. Again, we ask that you submit questions in writing. Please try to limit your phone calls. It's important that questions be submitted in writing, and then the department will respond back in writing. If you missed the August 12th deadline for questions, you may still send questions. We will do our best to respond. There may be a delay. If the questions significantly affect the RFP, an addendum may be issued. Okay, let's jump right into the 4 different grant opportunities. Next slide. Oh, that's a snapshot of the HANDS website. Just a note on this, the easiest way, oh, sorry, Michael, can you back up? Yeah, the easiest way I found to use the HANDS website is under where it says enter keywords. That's where you would put the RFP identification number. If you put the number in there, it will immediately take you to the right page. This website hosts all the different state agencies. So there are thousands of RFPs, bidding opportunities, everything under the sun is in there. So as long as you have the RFP number, that's the best and easiest way to pull up the information on the HANDS website. Okay, next slide. So this is just a summary of all the 4 RFPs. I'm just going to go over this very briefly, and then we will get into the details after this slide. There are 4 grant opportunities. Funds are available for projects statewide. Our grants program uses the state procurement method called Request for Proposal, or RFP. It is also known as competitive sealed proposals. Our grants program has always been an open and transparent process. Applicants, your partners, any beneficiary, the general public, may also provide public testimony before the Hawaiian Homes Commission at any point in the process. This year, we are planning to bring the Grant Review Committee recommendations to the November 21 and 22 Commission meeting. So if you're interested in submitting testimony, please go to the department's website on instructions on how to submit either verbal or written testimony. Okay, so starting from the very top, the first RFP, the ID number is RFP-23-HHL-001. So that's the first one. This grant is for improvements to existing facilities on Hawaiian homelands. There is a $1 million maximum limit per application. There is $3 million budgeted available statewide. And the primary source for these funds is the new state general funds. Please note for this RFP, new facility projects, whether it's planning, design, construction, they are not eligible. The next opportunity is RFP-23-HHL-002. This grant opportunity is for existing programs and services to existing homesteads, lessees primarily. There is a maximum per application of 500,000, and there is 4.5 million total available statewide. This as well, the source is the state general funds. So the types of projects are pretty much any existing programs and services serving existing homesteads, primarily lessees. This has the same restriction. No new facility projects are eligible for this grant. Oh, sorry, back up to the table. The next grant opportunity is RFP 23 HHL 003. This is a project implementation grant. The maximum per application is 100,000. Total available statewide is 700,000. And the NERF funds, which is our trust funds, is the primary source. This is kind of the catch-all RFP. It's basically for any project assisting and benefiting Hawaiian Homes Commission Act beneficiaries, lessees, and applicants. This includes new facilities, planning, design, construction. It includes regional plan projects. It pretty much includes everything under the sun. And then the last opportunity is RFP 23 HHL 004, community capacity building. This year, we did increase the maximum per application. It used to be $5,000. For this year only, we've increased it to $15,000. That's 1-5 per application. There's $300,000 total available statewide. The source of funds is again Native Hawaiian Rehabilitation Fund, or our trust funds. Capacity building pretty much includes things like board training, strategic planning, updating a business plan, community outreach, a website, a newsletter. We funded those kinds of things before. So, as I'm sure many of you know, with any grant opportunity, you need to read the fine print, right? It's not that easy and it's not that simple. The devil is in the details. So the next couple of slides, we'll get into a little bit of the details. Next slide is starting with 001. Again, this grant is for improvements to existing facilities on Hawaiian homelands. Existing facility means a physical asset that your organization currently manages and or operates. So these would be things like a building that's there already, a community center, farmer's market. Those are the most common ones that currently exist on Hawaiian homelands. The other major criteria is site control. Site control means you as the applicant, your name needs to be the same name on the department's land disposition. So that means either you have a right of entry, you have a license, or you have a general lease from the department. So whoever the applicant is for this grant, that same name needs to be on the land disposition. Again, funds available, total of $3 million statewide. A maximum per application is $1 million. The grant period is up to 6 years with no option to time extend. So we're giving ample time, for projects that can start, that are ready to start, and can be finished up in 6 years. We are not allowing any time extensions. Again, these are special funds. We need to see them pulled down and used quickly and responsibly. And there's also many other projects that also need funding. So whatever is not spent by the end of these 6 years, then we can go back and fund others that we're not able to fund. There is a limit of 1 application per organization for this RFP. Next slide. Next slide is RFP 002. This grant is for existing programs and services for existing homesteads. An existing program means any program or service that your organization is currently operating and where the clients or the participants in your program are primarily lessees. The only restriction with this one, ineligible projects are, and please refer to page 13 in the RFP itself, housing counseling, homeownership assistance, and emergency assistance. And the reason we have this restriction is the department already has vendors providing this assistance. So we wanted to use these special monies for other things that we have not yet funded. So that's why we're not going to be accepting applications in those particular areas. The funds available, 4.5 million total statewide. The maximum per application, again, is 500,000. Same grant period, 6 years, with no option to time extend. This too also has a limit of 1 application per organization. Okay, moving on to 00. Oh no, sorry. Okay, so we'll take a little pause here. So RFP 001 and 002 are funded by the new state general funds. And these funds did come with a restriction from the state legislature. These funds are for services to existing homesteads. The only other condition from the state ledge is that the department must get these funds encumbered into a contract by June 30, 2023. There is no spend down due date or deadline. We have until June 30 to actually encumber it into a contract, but there is no hard deadline to actually spend the funds. But it's another one of those things, right? When you have funds sitting there doing nothing, which currently we do, the department has a handful of very old grants. The longer it sits there, who knows, if the state is going to cut them or not. So that's kind of the risk. So we are under a time pressure, and we are starting the procurement process sooner than we normally do. Usually we start in October, so we're starting in August fairly early to try to move things along. So again, the key criteria here is existing homestead services. So funds under 001 and 002, they must be used to benefit lessees primarily. The ledge's thinking, what they've shared with us is this 10 million is primarily for lessees. The bigger pot, the 600 million that many of you have heard about, that is for applicants. So that was the distinction that the legislature instructed us on these different funds. Okay, moving on to 003 and 004. 003 is the project implementation grant, and this RFP is funded by trust funds, specifically the Native Hawaiian Rehabilitation Fund. So we have a little more flexibility. Basically, can be used to assist any and all beneficiaries. This one is not restricted to lessees. So again, this grant is for, can be used for new facility projects, something you're in the planning phase, design, or construction. Any other programs and services, whether it's a new program, something you're currently operating, that's available for all beneficiaries. These two ineligible projects are housing counseling, homeownership assistance, emergency assistance. Again, because we've already funded those programs, we did not want to use more funds for those particular program areas. Funds available, 700,000 total statewide, maximum per application, 100,000. The grant period is again 6 years with no option to time extend. And this too has a limit of 1 application per organization. Notice there's some similarity between 002 and 003. And that's because there is similarity. The key differences between 002 and 003, 002 is funded by the new state general funds. So it is restricted to servicing existing homesteads, lessees primarily. 003 is funded by trust funds. So projects there can serve all beneficiaries, lessees, and applicants. New facility projects can only be funded under 003. So this includes any due diligence, planning, design, construction. And of course, lastly, the dollar amounts are different between the two RFPs. So if you need $100,000 or less, go to door number 3. And that one has less restrictions than 002. For these first 3 RFPs, there is a limit of 1 application per organization. And you can also, as a single organization, if you have a project that fits each one, you're more than welcome to submit 1 application for each RFP. The project does need to be different. You know, it can't be you're applying for number 1 and 2 for the kind of the same project. So the reason we're doing this is to give a chance to all homesteads to participate. We have over 50 homesteads across the state. So we want to make sure there's opportunity for everyone and have chance. If all of the funds are not allocated, if we don't get enough applications or strong applications to fund, the department can shift funds from one RFP to another. And remember, these are competitive funds and proposals must meet the criteria. Okay, this is 004, the Community Capacity Building Grant. This RFP seeks to build, strengthen, and enhance community capacity within our homestead communities, including the applicant community. Community capacity projects seek to help beneficiaries to carry out their plans, to help each other become lessees, to improve homestead areas and facilities, increase the use of homestead land, or implement a community vision. Communities need knowledge and skills to implement their community vision. There's a partial list of the types of community building activities that can be funded. That's located on page 60. That's 60. Ideally, it should be a project that has a peer-to-peer or train-the-trainer aspect where beneficiaries are mentoring another beneficiary. That would be ideal. It's not required, but it is ideal. You can also fund strategic planning or update your strategic plan, board governance, leadership succession, project management, financial management for your nonprofit, community outreach. I mentioned like designing a website, newsletters. We funded those before. Human resource development. So board member orientation, volunteer orientation or training, that type of thing. And of course, helping you with your administrative systems, setting up your record keeping, your bookkeeping, helping you to figure out what's going on with your nonprofit compliance. So anything sort of administratively to run your nonprofit. So total funds available is $300,000. The maximum per application is $15,000, 15. And this one has a grant period of 4 years with no option to time extend. On this one, there is no limit. A single applicant organization may submit multiple proposals as long as the proposed project is different. The reason we do this is there are many emerging homesteads, new homestead associations just getting started, and they're what's called unincorporated groups, meaning they've not registered as a nonprofit with DCCA. So they would need a nonprofit partner to be eligible for this RFP, as well as any of the others. And as a side note, no matter what life cycle stage your nonprofit is in, whether you're a new emerging nonprofit, you're in a growth spurt, you're a mature nonprofit, or you're in a renewal phase, you're all welcome to apply. This RFP is not only for new homestead associations. Boards come and go, needs in your community change over time. So in order for your organization to stay current and responsive to community needs, capacity building is always needed. Strong organizations are very self-aware of what their organizational capacity needs are. Okay, so let's move on to the next section. Next slide. So we're going to move on to the RFPs themselves. And again, I'm only going to go over the highlights. We'll take it section by section, and I'm just going to bring special attention to certain sections and statements, and to try and clarify those areas. So if you have, you might want to take a minute or so to grab one of the RFPs so that you have it in front of you to follow along. Every RFP, the page numbers are the same, the section numbers are the same. So it doesn't matter which one you grab. So again, common to all of the RFPs, starting with page 1 and 2. This basically is the instructions on what's needed to submit your proposal. So first thing is a complete proposal is due by 2 o'clock on October 6th. And what we mean by complete is no piecemeal. You are responsible for assembling your proposal and for making a one-time electronic submission. If the file sizes are too large, you may break them down and send in consecutive emails. And please label it. There are examples in the RFP on how to label your proposal. We are expecting everyone to submit their proposal by email to the address posted here, dhhl.grantsrfp@hawaii.gov. We will accept PDF and JPEG files only. We ask that you do not put links to websites nor any cloud storage. The Grant Review Committee can only review what's in the electronic files. They cannot click on links on websites, any of that. Applicants are encouraged to submit proposals in advance, and this helps you assure that the proposal was received by the department in a timely manner. It assures that the department can open and read your proposal, and if needed, it gives you time to resubmit your proposal if there's any technical issues before the final due date of October 6th. And remember, we only have one email address for all 4 RFPs. Okay, so every proposal needs to be sent to that email address and label it properly as stated in the RFP. Next slide. Okay, pages 5 and 6 is the timetable, which is super important. If you're not the paperwork person or the deadline person, make sure you get someone who is. And again, many of you, I'm probably preaching to the choir, who have grant writing experience. You know how important the timetable is. So here are the dates and overall process. The timetable is subject to change. If there is a change, an addendum will be posted on the HANDS website. And just some highlights. We're providing a little more than the 60-day standard. You actually have a total of 70 days to prepare the proposal. It is due October 6th, as mentioned earlier. We're conducting the orientation sessions this week. August 12th is the due date to submit written questions. September 9, the department will respond to the questions, and we will also post the responses, because as you all know, somebody who asks a question, there might be 2 or 3 other people that have the same question. We do have a September 30 deadline that if for some reason you need to modify your proposal, like you forgot your budget page or your budget page is incorrect, you have to notify us by September 30 that you wish to modify your proposal. In any case, if you modify or not, the proposal due date remains the same. All proposals must be submitted by October 6th, by 2 o'clock. And again, applicants are encouraged to submit in advance. Next slide. Next slide is page 7, amendments to the RFPs. Just a reminder, it is your responsibility to check the HANS website for any addendum. DHHL will only notify applicants. If you have not yet submitted your proposal, we would have no idea that we would notify you. So again, it's your responsibility to check the HANS website. On page 9, availability of funds. What does this mean? Funds are subject to governor budget execution policies. We will not know until the commission approves the grant awards. We're targeting the November meeting on the actual availability of funds. This is also why we say in the timetable, the estimated start of grant is to be determined. If the timing of the DHHL grant will affect something else in your project, please state that in your application so that we are aware that you have some timing issues on the release of funds. Next slide, section 2, DHHL award information. I already mentioned this. This has to do with the award period and award renewal. Essentially, there are no time extensions. We want the funds to be totally spent. Any unspent funds will be returned to the department. And there are many other projects that also need funds. So we want to give chance to all other homesteads. Next slide, section 3, eligibility. The good news is for this year, we are allowing any and all nonprofits to be eligible. So that means you can be a general nonprofit registered with the state DCCA, and you're organized under HRS section chapter 414D, the Nonprofit Corporation Act. Or you are a planned community association, which we call DCCR Homesteads. And again, you must be registered with DCCA, and you are organized under HRS 421J, the Planned Community Law. We have a handful of those. And lastly, if you are a IRS 501c3 charitable nonprofit, you are eligible as well. So we haven't done this before, allowing any and all nonprofits to be eligible. So this is a very special year for us. Okay, so on page 12, I just wanted to point this out, that whoever the applicant is needs to demonstrate that a majority of your clients and/or participants are beneficiaries. What does this mean? Say you're a health program, as an example. So you would say in your application A majority of our clients are beneficiaries. And you should include data such as in the last 5 years, our health program served 1,000 clients. More than half were beneficiaries. Then attach reports, client evaluations, or something to substantiate that statement. Again, on page 12, sections 3 and 4, those statements basically say an organization can only submit one application for each RFP. The only exception is 004, which I mentioned earlier. You may submit multiple applications for the capacity building RFP. And then moving down the page of page 12, connection to Hawaiian Homes Commission Act. This is very, very key. And also as for the department, it is our beneficiaries that we serve. So applicants must show a strong connection to the homestead areas that the facility or the program serves that you're proposing. Examples would be a board resolution from the homestead or homesteads you're serving, support letters from those homesteads, from individual beneficiaries, individual testimonies. So anything that can document and substantiate and show how strong of a connection your organization has to the homestead and beneficiaries that you're planning to serve. Next slide, page 14. Okay, page 14, certifications. Again, I just wanted to point these out. Under number 1, licenses and permits. This is all about site control. If your proposed project is some kind of facility, a building, a farmer's market on Hawaiian Homeland's property, you must show site control. And that means you already have your right of entry, or you have a license, or you have a general lease. And again, as the applicant, your name on the grant application needs to be the same name that's on the department's land disposition issued to you. Number 2, partner certification. This is Form M, like Mary. It's found on page 79. Every key partner and project team member must sign this partner certification form. 2 signatures are required, the board president and either a chief of staff or key volunteer or another board member. You must include a brief description on the partner's role. You know, what specifically are they responsible for in the project? And this is for you to demonstrate how ready your project is and that you have a team in place that's already operationalized and ready to go. We do understand that after the grant is awarded, anything can happen in the implementation. That may cause a partner to fall out. That's okay. It happens. So we will deal with that at the time it happens. The grant proposal is just that. It's a proposal. It's a plan based on the best information you have available at the time you prepare the proposal. Item number 3, if you are an IRS 501c3 charitable nonprofit, please include your determination letter from IRS. If you are one of the other nonprofits under 414D or 421J, please attach your certificate of good standing from DCCA. Number 4, Hawaii Compliance Express certificate. This is a hard requirement from the state. There's no way we can waive this, make an exception. We do ask that your certificate not be more than 3 months old. I've seen where our sister agency would reject things because the certificate's too old. So the other thing I also suggest, because this one is super important, once you get off this Zoom meeting, check your certificate, because I have seen where it becomes a problem and it has taken weeks, even months to fix. So if you don't know your status, check it right after this meeting. If you're good, you're good. But if there's a problem, it can be a simple problem or it could be a very lengthy problem to figure out. And then item number 5 is the board governance certification form. That's form F, like Frank, on page 72. This is for the applicant only. Here you're certifying that you and your organization, you have a board that is not compensated, totally serving on a volunteer basis, and that you have bylaws or policies that govern how business is conducted, including procedures on procurement. So for example, for projects involving construction, they involve construction contracts and big dollar amounts. So you should have a procurement policy for transparency. You should also have a conflict of interest and nepotism policy. That's pretty standard for nonprofits. And you should also have a conflict and dispute resolution policy. This is, again, to help you and protect you as a nonprofit should any conflict arise internally to your organization as well as externally. And then lastly, matching funds or in-kind donations are optional. If you do provide them, extra points are given. And please keep in mind that whatever match you're putting up should be within the same time period as the department grant period. Next slide, section 4, application. So this is on page 16. Basically, use the checklist. We put together a nice short checklist so you don't forget anything that goes in the application. The checklist is located on page 56, that's 56. A complete proposal has 4 parts. Part 1 is the application cover sheet. That's all the contact information. That's only 1 page. Part 2 is the bulk of your proposal. That's your proposal request. The narrative includes the scope. You need to include your project budget and your timeline. So that's where you want to spend most of your time, is on part 2. Part 3 are the required forms and attachments. And then part 4 are other materials, which is optional. Basically, anything else you want to add to your proposal to support your proposal. Photos and maps are worth 1,000 words. Those are good to have as well. Next slide. Section 6, application evaluation. This is on page 21. So after the deadline of October 6th, the department will evaluate all proposals. And there's 2 phases. Phase 1 is to check that the proposal is complete. Any missing items, the proposal will automatically be disqualified. Also, there is a list of criteria 1 through 7 on page 21. This section also talks about the proposal scoring. There's 4 basic categories. Organizational capacity. That pretty much means your administrative capacity, your organization and project team member experience and skills they bring to the project. Then there's the project readiness. So again, we want to see that your project team is already in place, they're ready to go, or they've already been working together. That's even better. But we want to see that your project is ready to go, that you can hit the ground running, pull down the funds, and we start to see the project moving very quickly. The third category is beneficiary involvement. Again, that's the connection, your organization's connection to the beneficiaries. how you are involving the beneficiaries, and how are you going to keep your beneficiaries informed of the project. And then lastly, sustainability. Remember that this is one-time only funding, so you may consider setting aside some of the funds for grant writing or to prepare a fund development plan or update your business plan. You might want to consider setting aside a little bit of budget for those kinds of things to work on your sustainability plan. To the right are bonus points. So I mentioned the matching funds or in-kind donations. You get up to 5 points if you can show match. For RFP 002 and 003 only, if it is a regional plan priority project, that'll earn an extra 5 points. You will need to cite the regional plan page number of where that priority project is located so we can verify that it in fact is a priority project. Next slide, Section 8, attachments. RFP attachments are for reference purposes only. So attachment A, this is the department's monthly lease report that we submit to the commission. It lists all the existing homesteads and the number of leases, residential, ag, and pastoral. It is current as of June 30th. So again, this is just for reference purpose. If you're going to serve multiple homesteads, you can look them all up, add up the numbers, and you can say, you know, our project is going to serve all 2,000 beneficiaries in these 3 homesteads. So that's an example of how you would use that list. You don't have to, but if you need the numbers of how many leases per homestead, that information is there for you to use. Attachment B is the state general conditions. If you are awarded a grant, this is automatically attached to the contract. So we're just providing it up front so that you are aware of the state's conditions. And then attachment C are the state contract forms. If you are awarded a grant, these are the forms that the department will complete and bring it into a contract for you to sign. And your proposal is typically attached to the contract itself. So it is a component of the contract. Next slide, Section 9. Section 9 are the grant application forms, starting on page 59. We also provided these forms in Word format, so you can just type right in there. We ask that you please answer the questions fully and completely and fill out all the forms best you can. Some forms are really not forms, they're actually cover sheets. So place those cover sheets on top of the document that's requested. So it's things like, you know, your articles of incorporation, right? So just make sure you use those cover sheets that are labeled so that the committee, it's very clear to the committee what document it is. And some forms say sample. Here, the applicant, you have the discretion to format the sample how you would like to, as long as you don't change the content that significantly. Please do print it on letterhead. Page 56 is the checklist. Use the checklist. Page 60, pay particular attention to this. This is what it says in the RFP is provide examples of active collaboration with homestead associations, other nonprofits, and other local community resources. So what we're looking for here is active collaboration. Homesteads and applicants are served by many associations, also served by many other nonprofits. So you yourself as a nonprofit, you should know who the others are, and you should provide examples or documentation on how you actually collaborate with them. We're interested to see your outreach efforts to other organizations serving the same area, the same homesteads, and or providing a similar service. So it's basically, are you guys talking to each other, sharing notes, in the interest of supporting and servicing our beneficiaries? That's really what that question is about. Next question on page 61, question number 3. This can be any DHHL grant or any other funds from any other funder. So what we're looking for here is organizational track record. The question does specifically ask that you provide an example or two from the last 5 years of a grant or a couple grants where you have accomplished something and show you have a track record. So this would be something like, if you're going to propose to the department that you want a $1 million grant, we'd like to see under this question on page 61 that you've spent $1 million before to show us you've done this. So that's what that is to show your organizational track record, that you've done projects before at the level that you're asking the department to fund. Next slide. This is just a snapshot of what the checklist looks like. Again, it's found on page 56. Please use that as your guide to help you not forget anything to include in your proposal. Next slide. So again, just a recap, important websites. This is, again, the State Procurement Office HANDS website. It will always have the most complete information and up-to-date information. This is the department's website, where we have tried to mirror what's on the HANDS website, where we post RFPs. Key contact information, where do I submit the proposal? Again, there is the email address. It doesn't matter which RFP, all proposals go to the same email address. They're all due by 2 o'clock on October 6th. As you have questions, you have until August 12th. The department will then provide written responses and post the written responses by September 9th. Next slide. Oh, okay. So I reserved the last couple of slides just for some general last few words. So we get this a lot, what's a good proposal? And I'm sure, again, with the professional grant writers out there, I'm sure you all have many other experiences. Generally, characteristics of a good proposal, from the funder perspective, what we like to see, that the proposal was complete and instructions were followed, that your proposed scope, your narrative that you wrote, and your budget that you prepared and timeline, they're all in alignment. What we mean by that is they're all telling the same story. So whatever you say in the scope, there better be a budget line item reflecting that. And then, of course, the timeline, a realistic timeline of how you're going to get your project done. Proposals should be brief and concise, well-written, error-free. At last night's meeting, somebody asked the question, is there a page limit? No, there's no page limit. So knock yourself out, but at the same time, try to keep it focused. And try to make sure your proposal, it has enough relevant information and documentation to help the evaluators understand your proposal. And before I forget, the Grants Review Committee may or may not be familiar with your homestead nor your project. So keep that in mind. Try not to make too many assumptions in your proposal. We are going to have at least one external reviewer So somebody not inside DHHL. Grant review committee members have to be qualified to serve as a committee member, and they are appointed by the chairman himself. That's pretty typical of pretty much any procurement that the department does. Procurement committees are always appointed by the chairman. And then, of course, the key component, the applicant and the project, you need to have a strong connection to beneficiaries. Again, things like board resolutions, support letters. The other thing that works great, community meetings, right? If you have sign-in sheets, or you have a list of dates, that will help support showing that you have a strong connection to beneficiaries. Okay, last slide. So just some few last words. Funder fit. I'm not sure if people have heard that before. So the department should not be your only funding source. While the project is on Hawaiian homelands, it does not mean the department is your only funding source. Okay. So read the RFPs carefully. Take a look at your project. Take a look at your organization and see if there's a fit. If there's no fit, that's okay. Don't worry about it. We don't always have to be your only funder. Okay. It has to make sense for you. Okay. The department can only provide the resource. We can only provide the application form. But you, as an independent organization, you have your own board. You need to make that decision of whether is this something we should apply for? Does it fit what we're trying to achieve in our project? Don't chase the money. I see a lot of people, they just read the first paragraph. There's $1 million that's being given away. I want that. It's really the other way around. It's what is your project? What do you need? And apply for what you need. That's most important. Oh, back up. There we go. Make sure you have a project plan. If you don't, then that might be the place to start. And that would be a great capacity building grant, is to work on a project plan. All proposals must address the criteria. Again, these are highly competitive funds. There's not enough for everybody. While we think 8.5 million is a lot, given the needs we have in our homesteads, it's just a drop in the bucket, right? So we want to make sure that all the proposals meet the criteria, and the strongest ones are the ones that will get funded. And money isn't everything, right? I mean, it's great to get $1 million. That would be great for anybody. At the same time, you also need the people, right? You need the talent, the skills. You need the leadership. You need strong communication skills. And you also need somebody who can handle the paperwork and administration. That's another important piece, for any government grant. Because when you get to the federal level grants have way more paperwork than we do at DHHL. So the money's nice, but it also comes with a lot of responsibility. So we do want to show demand for the community grants, and I look forward to receiving everybody's proposals. If we get more proposals than the total budget we have of 8.5, that's actually even better. Then we can make a case and an argument that we need more money. But we got to show we have the demand and that we can do this and get the money out in the communities. That's the first thing we got to show. Okay, I think that's it, right? Okay, there we go. Alrighty. Let's go to chat box first. Let's see. Let's start from the top, see if I can read this. Or maybe, Michael, if I can ask you to read.
Okay, let me
Okay.
get through here. Okay, first question comes from Rachel. Just confirming these funds need to be used within a year. Are we able to apply for multiple RFPs?
No, the funds do not need to be used if used means spent within a year. No. You will have up to 6 years for the first 3 RFPs, and for capacity building, the time period is 4 years. Are we able to apply for multiple? Yes. You can submit one organization may submit one application for each of the first 3, and then for 004, you can also submit an application, and you can submit multiple for 004.
Okay. Next question comes from Blossom. Blossom wants to know for RFPs 001 and 002, is site control necessary before award?
Yes. Yes. The minimum we would take is the commission approval, because I do know that once commission approval for the disposition happens, sometimes it does take months for the department to actually issue the disposition. But as long as we have a commission approval, then we can match the money up. But it does have to be before, actually it should be at the application stage. It really should be at the application stage, because it's not going to be fair to the other organizations who have their ducks lined up in a row, that we end up funding somebody else who doesn't even have their disposition yet. Yeah, so we'll take the ones with dispositions first that are the highest scoring and strongest. That would be the priority order. But again, commission approval is good enough. The actual document, we can wait for it later.
Okay. Next question comes from Princess Lehuanani. If I'm a waitlister since 1993, can I still place a proposal of interest to benefit the DHL community plan?
I'm not real clear on that question. The only thing I can say is, try read through the RFPs. If there's something there that fits your project idea, any nonprofit can apply.
Okay. This next message comes from Jonathan. So only nonprofit organizations are able to apply, correct? Or the nonprofit would be the main applicant under the RFP for 001, 002, and 003?
So for all 4 RFPs, you must be a nonprofit. So any nonprofit can apply to any of the 4 RFPs. If you have a project team, there's a group of you applying together. Whoever the lead organization is, that's going to be put their name on the application. That organization does need to be a nonprofit. Yes.
Okay, thank you. That concludes the questions from the chat. So at this time, ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to open it up for those who'd like to verbally ask a question. But in order to do that, what you'll need to do is, first of all, you'll need to turn your camera on, or at least down below. If you look at the menu bar down below, you'll see on the right-hand side reactions. If you click on reactions, you'll be able to raise your hand. Once you raise your hand, I'll be able to identify you, ask you to unmute. And if you can, please turn on your camera and ask your question. So if anybody has any verbal questions that they'd like to ask at this time, please go ahead and go to the reactions and hit the raise hand. Okay, I'm not seeing any hands raised as of yet, Gigi, but in the meantime, there was another question that came through the chat. This one comes from Rachel. It sounded like there's a certain percentage of lessees or beneficiaries that must be served. What percentage was that? I ask because the school in our homestead does not only serve Native Hawaiians, lessees, or beneficiaries.
All we simply said was a majority. Because these are funds coming to the department, our beneficiaries are who we serve. Now, if you have funds from elsewhere, supporting the same project, as long as our funds, and it's very clear in the department's administrative rules, our funds can go to any nonprofit as long as the assistance or the program is for beneficiaries. So if you have a school and department's funds is only a portion of what funds the school, then we would like to see the proportion. So if our portion is 25% of your funds, then at least 25% should be beneficiaries that our portion pays for. Do we have anyone on the phone, Michael?
I don't see anybody on phone numbers. I just see everybody by name.
Okay.
Nobody is asking any questions, though, not that I can see.
Just going back to Blossom's question, about whether you have to have the site control before the award. If your project is going to be like construction, definitely you need to have the site control in hand. But if you're still in the due diligence phase, that simply requires an ROE. So that doesn't have to be awarded. So it does kind of depend. It depends on what phase of the project you're in. And if site control is needed at that phase, the obvious one is construction, then yes, you would need to have the land disposition in hand. But if you're early, like you're doing the feasibility study, or you're doing the business plan, or you're doing like a community survey needs assessment, you don't necessarily need the land disposition yet, because that's all the what I call the R&D, research and development. So I hope that helps.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, Olin has a question. This also came in through the chat, Gigi. This is from Olin. If our organization serves Hawaiians in general, can that be considered? Or would we need to count the number of served that are Hawaiian and also a beneficiary on the waiting list? This is in regards to who our organization serves. The grant request would be directed 100% to beneficiaries.
Again, per our administrative rules, any nonprofit can apply as long as the assistance is going to the department's beneficiaries. However you describe that in the context of your organization, that's how you're going to need to describe, what you're trying to do. What the committee is going to be looking for is service to the beneficiaries. And in grant monitoring, that's also what we're going to look for is what were the funds spent for, what were the services, and how do you, in fact, I believe there's a question in the RFP. You need to describe how you intend to track the beneficiaries, lessees, applicants, and how you're going to report that to the department, especially for 001 and 002, because that was a very, very specific request from the state legislature is lessees. So on those particular two, we do need to be very careful in how we're counting and verifying that they are lessees. But you will need to describe that in your proposal, and then the committee will make its best recommendation of, is that enough information?
Okay, let's see, more question coming in on the chat. This is also from Olin. And it says, quote, application shall demonstrate majority of their clients / participants are beneficiaries, unquote,
Yes.
close quote. This was where my question was targeted. This demonstration must be lessee. Let's see, this demonstration must be lessees to be even eligible to apply.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that you as the applicant, whoever the applicant is, they do need to demonstrate that a majority of their client or participants in whatever program or service you're proposing are beneficiaries.
Olin responds, okay, mahalo.
So just to throw it out there, so the other way to look at this is if you yourself may not fit that, that also says you might want to consider a partner who would be the lead applicant and have some kind of partnership with them. So that's up to you, but that we would need to evaluate. The committee will need to evaluate, how you best meet that criteria.
Okay, thanks, Gigi. We have Commissioner from Kauai, Dennis Neves, on. He has his hand raised. Go ahead, Commissioner. Nice to see you.
You know, I'm not the type to get tongue-tied on this stuff. So anyway, Gigi, thank you for the presentation. I know I pulled one of the RFPs up. I think I need to buy some more reams of paper here. Yeah, it looks like a lot of focus may be, especially with new nonprofits on RFP 004. And you ask, you say that you put in multiple RFPs. So if you're like doing a newsletter, you're doing a website, are those two separate proposals, or you do a combination proposal?
Yeah, if it's one organization, right?
Yes.
Whether you're a new association or not, it really doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you submit one application, right? That
yeah.
Based on our needs, what we figured out, this is what we need. We want to do a website, we want to do a newsletter, and we want to get board training. Right. So that's one application. Okay?
So one question on before we get too far. When we say we get the training, when you say get the training, how do you put together the cost for the training?
Oh, well, you call around to, who are you considering, to help you, right?
Okay. All right.
And you call around and, you ask them for some pricing.
Okay. Good.
It's like, it's like if you're remodeling your house, right?
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
You go down, talk to people who've already remodeled their house. How much did it cost you?
Yeah.
You talk to your neighbors, right? Talk to your neighbors.
Good.
Talk to the potential trainers that you might consider.
Okay. All right. That's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah. So what we mean by for 004, the capacity building, why we say multiple proposals. We have a lot of associations who are unincorporated. They're not registered with DCCA. So a single nonprofit, could partner with each one of those. So that's why we're allowing a single organization to partner with ABC Association because they want to get board training. Then they go partner with XYZ, a different association, you know, because they want grant writing help, right?
Right.
But you need that nonprofit
Yeah.
status, right?
And
So that's,
so that
we
so
want you
that
to help people.
I'm sorry. So that nonprofit would have to line up with a specific association, or could it be
Yep.
with like a neighborhood?
Yeah, or several.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good. Because some folks, you know, they don't they don't participate in the association for many reasons, but we have communities that work together to provide you know, services for their community. We live in a sort of a tight community here in Anahola in the Bayview, and we're on a dead end street, so we all sort of assist each other. So it would be something as a nonprofit, I'd be able to work with them and say, okay, what do we need? How do we need to do this? And I'd be able to as a nonprofit, put together the program with their assistance and what their needs are.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good. Very good. Thank you. Thank you. So I just want to make sure that you know, for the other folks that are on that we're not just talking about associations. We're talking about folks
Right.
that are not tied to associations for whatever reason. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
But there's a large enough group that says, hey, we'd like to do something for our group, whether it be 20 people or 50 homes or whatever it is. And eventually that could lead to an association, which people look forward to, because there's always different ways to operate association, and people need to understand how it operates. And I think this way, by just pulling a community together, saying, hey, this is how we should do things so we can protect, you know, our local area and participate in the bigger picture. So I'm glad. I just wanted to make sure that was clear, that we're not just
Yes.
talking about association. We're talking about folks that want to get involved, but are not looking at a specific, so for whatever reasons. Okay.
Right. And that's exactly what 004 is for. And that's why it's called community capacity building. Other funders call it organizational capacity building. The reason we don't say that is because, again, it's a very broad grant. It doesn't have to be tied to a formal association. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Let's see, we do have another hand raised. This is coming from Princess Lehuanani. Princess, go ahead and unmute and open your video. Go ahead.
Here we go. Aloha.
Aloha.
Aloha to all of you. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. You know, I've been on the Hawaiian Homelands list for 30 years now, since 1993. And thank you that we can get an opportunities for those that on the wait list have some kind of say. I was just thinking of being on the wait list. Seems like we don't have pretty much say, because most of the one that get say is those that already is a leaser already. So I would love to see some kind of organization or something set up so that we as those that still on the waiting list for years and years can get together. And that is my purpose in trying to see and trying to say, you know, I've been on the list, but seems like we have no say. So if there's something that can be done, like with number 4, you know, to get us started, at least for those that are on the wait list, so we can at least have a say and have some kind of money to put so we can work on getting on our land as soon as possible before we die. Thank you so much for you guys' help. Aloha. Mahalo.
Thank you, Princess. All right, does anybody else have questions that would like to open up their mic or raise hand? Okay, Princess, you have your hand raised again. Go ahead. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. I was just trying to get off the thing. Thank you so much. Aloha.
Okay.
Mahalo.
Okay.
Aloha. God bless.
Aloha. So the floor is still open. If anyone has questions, please raise your hand. Again, it's down in the reactions section of your menu bar. Click on reactions, and if you open it up, you'll see the first thing you'll see is to raise hand. If you'd like to ask a question, go ahead.
And we are having one more session on Friday at 10 o'clock. So you're welcome. Anyone is welcome to come back again. If you want to hear questions from the other groups or something comes to mind after you read all 80 pages of the RFP.
Okay, Gigi, it doesn't look like there's any other questions at this time. There are no call-in folks that I can see. It looks like everybody's on some type of computer or digital device which identifies them. So I don't see any phone numbers. Okay. So with that, I think you can close.
Oh, looks like there's one more.
Let's
There's
see.
one more in the chat.
Rachel says, mahalo so much for this information and explanations. Aloha.
No, one more. Do you think the beneficiary association that I recently started would qualify for 003 and 004? Well, again, sorry, I have to give the generic response. You should read through the RFPs. If you are a nonprofit and you're registered with the state of Hawaii and can produce a certificate of good standing and a Hawaii Compliance Express certificate, those are the minimum requirements. If you are not, then you would need to find a nonprofit partner and work with them, to apply. But that really is the key, is you have to at least be registered with the state, be able to submit a certificate of good standing and also a Hawaii Compliance Express certificate. Okay, I think that one was the very last. No more hands raising, no more on the phone. We're good.
Yep,
right?
I think that's it.
And we did record. We're recording all the sessions. We will post them. The one from yesterday, from last night, that recording is already posted and available. So thank you, everybody.
Hey, mahalo, Gigi and Michael and everyone that participated. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you too, Commissioner.
Aloha.
Mahalo,
Mahalo,
everyone.
everyone. Aloha.
Aloha.